This is a continuum of a conversation about the necessity and problems with monuments in the city of Chicago, this nation, and the world. This episode will also include an arrangement of a sound monument dedicated to the love story that is the city of Chicago. This is Breaking Bread. All right, we're back. So, yes, translator, love, this love story that I like to say Chicago was birthed through a love story, but that's just being very romantic about it. You know, my Cancerian romanticism in that sense. But as we've just heard from Janae, and as we heard just from Starla, like the actual work that it takes to broker such a thing as a city, as a culture, as people, the task of finding an identity of someone who through patriarchy just is a wife of, or as Janae mentioned, the concubine or the paramour of a man. And sometimes you have to go to you got to go to their feet to figure out, like, okay, this and this, and then to really understand the story of how the power this woman was. So with that being said, the first suite of this work that we're doing throughout the summer and through the fall, I re-invited Starla, Jesse. I have to have a conversation with Coco. We haven't had it yet, Coco, but we're going to have a conversation. And a few others to redo what we did over at Expo. And this time to have it truly be more of a collaborative effort. The first time we did it, it was like Windmill and Starla did their thing, Corey and Coco and them did their thing. And my vision of it was for it to be more like unified, if that's the word. Or collaborative in that sense. And this time I think we're working out, we're giving ourselves 4 opportunities to see what that actually looks like as we riff and collaborate truly about bringing the story of these two people together. So about a week or so ago, Starla, Brother L, Justin Dillard met over at ETA, who's a community partner in this critical distance programming, met, and we did the translator 0.01 Love. Did everybody see it, or are we about to watch it now? What are we about to do?
You know, how about we pull it up and do a section of it, maybe a couple minutes, and then we can.
Right, and then we'll get into this Learn Lerman-ish way of breaking it down and talking about it. All right, that is that. So, for the purposes of this situation, I want to ask specifically, have Jesse and Coco respond to this particular piece. Then Starla, if you have any questions for them in response to their responses, you can share with them. And then if they have any questions, then they can ask either you or myself, or Fahim and Jeremiah questions that then we can answer, and we are on the timer for this one to move into the next session. So Coco and or Jesse, thoughts?
I loved it. I loved the merging of both worlds in order to make one piece of art. What you're singing, the indigenous dancer going crazy, it was amazing. I definitely appreciate the experience. That's my second time watching the video, because I watched it earlier when you were on. It was earlier, so I definitely paid attention to it. And Avery, I didn't know you can blow like that. That was crazy. That was definitely an experience. I appreciate it.
And I concur. It was amazing. I saw it earlier. And interestingly enough, I'm in the process. I've been recording with other people and have never done my own solo release. And there's a song that I call Heyoka, a term that I just had become familiar with, I guess, during COVID, and somebody had down all the different types of empaths. And so when I ran across it, and a little sister of mine, well, I'm friends with her mother. I have these interesting relationships where I'm friends with mothers and daughters. It's kind of like I grew up in a cross-generational type of mother who had younger friends that was like 20 years younger. So I naturally kind of grew into that. And so this one particular young lady, I mean, talk about quick-witted, smart, street smart, astrologer, and also daughter of some pretty deep folks. This is Taisha Tech, Phil Karan, who is the one of the founding members of the AACM, in which I'm a member. And it just fit her. And then just finding out the different words that the sacred clown, you know, the person that gets it, that can take that humor and relate it, wordsmithing. So in that particular piece that I wrote for her has that drone that comes from the native traditions, indigenous traditions of America, and fused in with other, you know, elemental things. And you guys will hear it soon. But yeah, that was amazing. It's always a pleasure to see you perform. And it's really weird because I have to pinch myself like, I know him. He's silly, but he's this prolific artist and his heart is so big. Like, I remember when I was there at the performance and when I was just like in awe at like what I did not know, and asking him all these questions, and this, you know, and experience how history, if it's not told the right way, with something as close as the AACM. When we went through our 50th anniversary, we discovered that we had a founding member that was a woman that kind of got lost when we started digging up and archiving the paperwork. So this is really, really, really close to me. This, you know, retelling of history, decolonization of history, and lifting the veil of misogyny, and us, you know, looking like, you know, we just cooking chicken dinners. Because I told them when I when I became chair, I ain't making no chicken dinners. Those days are over with.
Yeah, yeah.
If you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I definitely know what you mean.
Women are gonna take true. We are going to fight tooth and nail for inclusion. You know, and if I gotta crack a joke and tease you about how old school you are, I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna coax you out of that crap.
Right. That is wonderful. Starla, so I always thought it was interesting. One of the reasons why I thought it was interesting to invite you and Jesse is because, one, you specifically worked basically at the first rendering of this, and then to see it in this rendering is totally different. It was definitely what I was trying to cook up 2 years ago, but life is life, and and everything doesn't just happens, everything happens just. And it all worked out that this could work the way it worked. Starla, do you have any questions for?
No, to echo what Coco said about the heartbeat, the drum being the heartbeat of all of that. And I think to that collaboration, there's so many layers. So it's really like outside of yourself, Avery, outside of myself, even Brother Al, like he was feeling it too. And when we were there and he started asking me about the dress, because it's not really the dance that I'm doing. The dance is a representation, that's a prayer in motion. That dress is actually called a healing dress. So that's why that even dress is there. It has nothing to do with Starla, it has to do with what that dress represents. It came from Native American ceremony. It's the only type of dance. It came from a ceremony, from a dream, from a vision. And so the dress is actually was used throughout time for Native people to heal people. And so to have it as a part of that experience, that's what I'm saying. There's just so many layers to this that you can't even, you can't even really talk about. It's just so cool. But yeah, definitely. Very neat.
I think a lot of folks think about the performance, and it's cool. Yeah, the layering and the merging, very intentional. I think it was successful in that. But I also think the underlying really is this language though, the message. The Chokaman sees brown skin, see bear, see deer, see dog. Chokaman see brown skin and shoot. So it definitely at this point is where in which the history that we get of how America comes to be, right, is a lot of times First Nation, those John Wayne movies, right? Right. That the First Nation people are the enemies of the state, the quote unquote
Yep.
the trope of the bad guy. When you think about in the ways in which that some folks have aligned even Dusab with that level of evilness, right? But again, as we learned, that wasn't what Dusab was siding, siding with. The whole notion of the language of the piece is really like, watch out. Watch out. And that's the way in which we should love each other, is to tell each other the truth. Right? To love, and that extends into this whole story of us learning more about this woman, right? If we truly love each other, if we truly love this land, if we truly love this idea of art, this expression of humanity, we would use art to tell folk the truth about a thing and things. And that's the whole purpose, even about like that piece. I just wanted to make sure or ask that question. Do we feel in watching this piece and understanding it now, and from the spaces in which we all come to this moment? Because again, that piece for me is bigger than Starla, Brother L, myself, and Justin. This is the culminating work of the Floating Museum. It is, we bring in Jesse and Coco in it because your energy is carried into this piece along with us. And so is that thought about what the language is evoking centered enough in this piece?
And I think, Avery, just to add, is Avery asked me when we were putting this together, how do you say white man in Potawatomi? And that's what he's repeatedly saying over and over again, Chamokaman. But we didn't have in our language for black, white, red, we didn't have the polarizing view. So Chamokaman actually is a description of it means big knife and what they carried, but also it represented how we saw their character. And so that is
also
what,
right.
He's it's just, even the words are really telling. So
Thank you so much. Yeah, I did.
So can I ask I'd be curious, Avery, a lot of times at the Floating Museum, we have like a museum, we have different galleries and different projects happening, and the left doesn't necessarily know what the right is doing. I think as facilitators, we kind of have, each of us kind of has a lane. And as as Kushla, who is working with the South Asian Institute of Chicago, coming into this conversation, I'm curious, as her focus is really about thinking about, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Indian kind of influences in Chicago. I'd be curious to get a read from you as someone's coming in and really kind of being inundated with this, where this is something I think you're aware of, but it's not like really central to your work with us right now. Maybe like think a little, like it'd be interesting to get a read from you about this body of work and kind of someone who's involved and not central.
There was just so much going through my head in so many different ways of what the performance as like one of the first questions that just came up is what is present here that I'm not seeing? Because automatically I only ask about what I recognize, and there's so many things that I don't know and don't recognize. And I have experience of that because of like moving to transient like transient times, moving through transient cultural backgrounds within India and within the subcontinent, and then also coming to the United States, where you don't really like, you can differ. For instance, for a very simple example is I can't differentiate between a W and a V when I'm saying it. So the similar way, like for instance, Starla, when you were saying about like your dress, about it being a healing dress, I wouldn't know to ask those questions the same way as like a lot of you wouldn't know how to ask questions of like something very specific to where I am located. So that's kind of what's going through that's kind of what's going through my head. But also like the I think I was talking to Jeremiah and Fahim about this yesterday, just about the name that we share as Indians, no matter where it might have been. If it was like in the other part of the country, it kind of came from that same like exploitative, the same like trying to suck the soul out of view, right? And there's so much like overlap in history with Ginny was speaking about, where the woman kind of holds that power of like opening up the doors for a husband, and it continues to date, where the woman is kind of like someone who holds up the whole family, but is supposed to just be in the background, right? Like just where I think about like a lot of our life as like a maintenance work, right? Cook the food, clean the dishes, clean everything, keep everything clean so that we can prosper. But there's also a lot of like there's a lot of knowledge sharing, and yeah, I was just thinking back lineages of Indian history as well, or where my family came from, like the different sections of families. One is traders from my father's side, which is a lineage of traders, just to kind of keep, which were kind of in that route of cotton trade across the world. And the other part of my family being like my mother's side, which in some ways, like I can understand like lineages, or kind of knowing up to 75 generations, which is also like it's such a privilege to know that. But there's a kind of shifting between what some of those meanings hold of like transition between like Hindu to Buddhism, back to Hinduism, back to like renunciation of all like wealth, to kind of starting to acquire wealth again, and the different meaning of that with the entering of colonialism. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This season on Breaking Bread.
To be kind of monument is really to have conversation. I think that sort of conversations are much more powerful than these static bronze objects.
And I think of a quilt with these patches, and these patches, you know, like this is a patch, we're looking at a quilt right here.
To remember and or to be advised, even to be warned.
When we think about truth telling, the truth evolves. It grows as you get more information.
I think the important thing that I've learned in this process is the idea of the story. Look around.